Welcome to the Self-Love Strong podcast. I'm your host, Sam, and I'm thrilled to have Liz Rodriguez here on the show. She's a passionate health coach who's on a mission to help women create their own personalized path to wellness. After years of being a college athlete and experiencing ups and downs in fitness, Liz found herself redefining her approach to health and fitness. Following back surgeries and weight gain, she now guides women to building a wellness plan that aligns with their true self instead of following that one-size-fits-all approach. Well, Liz, I'm so thankful to have you here. I'm excited to learn from you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and I love your energy. I can feel it.
Perfect. You have an amazing story. You started as a college athlete and you later transitioned to becoming that personal trainer. Can you walk us through your journey from college athletics to your fitness coaching?
Yeah, whoo, it was a big journey. So I really kind of got serious about running and everything when I was in high school, and and as I entered college, actually. So it's a long story. I'm going to give you part of it. I actually wasn't even prepared to be a college athlete. I did not even know what the NCAA clearinghouse was. That's how good of an athlete I was in high school. My coaches didn't even think I was going to be competing. But I tried out Illinois State. Like I literally went through the tryouts. They had me do like a mile run on the track and had me try to throw the shot put and do a long jump. I don't know why, but I just run. But that was like the journey. That's how it started for me. And college athletics for me it was such a staple in my life. It created that structure for me that I've always done really well with. Like I loved knowing okay, I have practice now and this is when I have my classes. And I really thrived on that structure. And as I progressed through, I didn't win any big awards or anything like that, but it was something that it really taught me my inner strength, being a long distance runner and running a little over 8,400 miles in 4 years. It teaches you a lot. You spend a lot of time breathing by yourself. And this is all, not that I'm super old, but early 2000s. You had some Discmans that I would know the exact step, like how if my pace got too quick, then it would start to skip. So most of the time I was just out there running with my friends or running with my thoughts. There was no iPods and fancy gadgets and stuff like that. So God, I went through a lot of Discmans because I broke a lot because I would drop them. Anyways, but I learned so much about myself and really, I guess, my true inner strength. And so when I graduated, I was fortunate enough. So I graduated with degrees in exercise science and public relations. And with that exercise science, I needed to do an internship. And I was part of the exercise science club when I was in college. I was the president. And I was able to meet a lot of cool people and do some good networking. And I met a gentleman named Scott Lewandowski. And he said, yeah, I want you to come work for my company in Chicago. And that's where it all began. I'm telling you, I walked in the first day as a personal trainer, had no idea what I was doing. But I knew that I wanted to help people. I didn't have all the skill sets yet. Right. And I thought I just have to put in the same effort and the same work that I did as an athlete and as a double major and all that stuff in college. And I kind of did it, we'll say, the old school way. I built up a business by being in the gym 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And I built up a clientele, and that led me to get into management fairly early and start leading my own team actually at the age of 24. So it was a lot. But as I progressed through and I was able to work in different states, different cities, different demographics. So lots of crazy stuff in there. But I think what always kind of kept me going was I just need to put my head down. I just got to work hard. And that kind of brings me where we're at today. I left commercial fitness. It's been now about 4 years and running my own business as a health coach. And where things kind of started to change for me was, we're going to talk about this a little bit more, was I did have to undergo back surgery. And as that started to kind of play out, it made me realize that maybe going 100 miles an hour all the time is not what I need to be doing. And it's funny because when I would train clients and everything, I was always very empathetic. And it's like, hey, I'm going to meet you where you're at. But when it happens to you, I think you look at everything from a completely different lens. And so when I got my board certification and everything for health coaching, and I started looking at that lens, really for me, originally, I went into health coaching because I felt like being a coach and trainer in commercial fitness. And what I mean by that, like big box, like coming in full service clubs, I felt like people that walked in were like on step number 7. They knew that health was important. They invested in a gym. They signed up for a consultation and they came to the consultation. So when I was sitting in front of those people, they had already made all of these very important health decisions before they got to me. And as I started learning more about health coaching, it was sort of like, well, what about steps 1 through 7? What about the people that are never going to join a gym? What about the people that don't really know where to start? And that's really where I wanted to sink my teeth into. And personally, when I realized that my journey was changing with health, that means that other people out there have to be thinking and feeling that same thing, right? So that's kind of where we're at. That's where we're at right now.
Man, that is an awesome, awesome journey. But I really love that it was that journey. I mean, it's so awesome how you were an athlete. You're going to college to be a supreme athlete. You had no idea that how far just your career would take you into college, right? From high school.
No, who know? Like,
As
who
I
would have
was
thought?
working really, I kind of discovered who.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
right. Who would know that? But it was that how you discovered who you were. Yeah, through
Yeah,
that
and
process.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. I
So I
think
know
I
you
missed that.
mentioned that after that back surgery. Oh no, you're good. You're good. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. No, you're good. Yeah, I think we have a little bit of delay, but it's okay.
Mhm.
So I know you kind of mentioned something. How did that redefine how you approach your fitness after that point? And where were some of those biggest challenges that you faced during that time?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things, and unfortunately, really with the back surgery stuff, that was a long journey because what I did not realize, I had actually almost blown my back out squatting. I know the exact day, like not the exact day, but it was years prior when
Oh,
I was still working in Chicago where I came up on a squat and felt something. And long story short, but shout out to Skip Chapman, one of my trainers who's an MAT specialist, helped get me upright because I actually couldn't walk for a couple days. And long story short, I really
oh,
had no idea the damage that I'd actually already done from years of overtraining. Like if something's going to break, it broke. And it actually took a full kind of 5 years later. I was fast forward to living in Westchester County in New York. I was getting ready to open up a new club with Lifetime, and I started having like massive amounts of pain. And I went to a surgeon or I went to a specialist first. I thought I was just going to be getting like a shot or something. And they were like, no, you have to get surgery. And I'm like, what? No, I don't. I'm not like, I'm not, no, I'm not getting back surgery. Like that doesn't make any sense. And I was scheduled 2 weeks later. So, in retrospect, I think what I really want to bring up with that whole thing is that I was ignoring a lot of signs that I was not okay. And not only that, I was not wanting to let go of the person that I was. I still wanted to be that 25-year-old size
mm,
2 athlete that, was a personal trainer and I'm so tough and all this stuff. And it's like, no, you can still be strong and amazing and a female leader. And you don't have to do all that crazy stuff anymore. So after the surgery, and you're not allowed to do anything for a little bit. And so all of a sudden it was like, Liz, you need
yeah,
to redefine what fitness is for you because you aren't the person that you were. And that's okay. you need to move forward. And I bring that up with a lot of clients because it's a double-edged sword. Those of us that were all college athletes, we don't want to let go of the past. And those of you that haven't been athletes are like, well, I'm never going to get to that level. Like, it's like a catch-22. And so whoever is listening, I want you to know that wherever you're at in your journey, if you are going out for a walk, that is your inner athlete. If you are going to do a CrossFit competition, or you're going for a bike ride, or you're just trying to do some core mobility because your back is killing you because you're working too many hours, like, that's your inner athlete. And there is no right or wrong to it. And for myself, it was really about me saying, why have I always wanted to help people? Where did this come from? Right. And how am I going to use that? Like, thinking about what I would say to my clients, how can I show my own empathy to myself and move forward in a way that is going to allow me to continue to be active? Because, like, I'm 42, like, I want to be active until, like, the day that I die. Like, I want to continue to bring health and fitness to people, but I also want to be in it because I love it, you know?
Yes, I love that. I love for simply helping people. It's so powerful because many times you're talking about that athletic identity, and I think we limit ourselves. And I love how you said it, like it's you know, meeting people where they're at, because there's a lot of people that they're going to a gym already, kind of already know that already come from that sports background. Well, hey, they've been doing fitness for a long time, but through and some people have never started because they can never identify themselves as somebody who could possibly go to the gym, somebody who could possibly better themselves or get stronger, and I love how you said it's almost you had to redefine yourself as you were an elite athlete. Because I think of college is like you were a college athlete. I think of that's that next level. And if you're in college, that's up there. That's like I don't know what you did in college. That's a high level athlete right there. And it's to think of somebody who's at that high level having to start over again, with an injury. Was that kind of a hard? You kind of explain, like, it was frustrating. Like, imagine like days before, or waking up strong, and we would used to do this. But for somebody that had never started before, what would you give them, like, a key to be like, hey, we're a great starting point for because you had to technically.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think for those people out there that are really like, they want to start this journey, and it's almost like they don't think that health and fitness belongs to them. Like, well, I'm not in that place. Like, it's if I can compare it, it's like the people that I would meet in the gyms that are like, well, why don't you, hey, you mentioned that you've wanted to, try out this class or this. Oh, I got to get into shape first, or I got to get to a certain place. And it's like, wherever you're at, that's where you need to start. And in terms of just maybe some little motivational tips, man, all of us are kind of our own worst enemies sometimes. And it doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're LeBron James or you're Liz Rodriguez or you're Sam Jones. Like, when we get up in the morning and we say, okay, I'm going to go and work out, that's where we're at, right? Like, today, it's cold here. I'm in Michigan. There's snow on the ground. So I said, hey, you know what? I got a busy day. I got all these recordings and stuff. So I'm going to do a workout right here in my living room, and it's going to take about 25 minutes. I have a couple of in-home things that I do, and that was my workout for today. And then I'm going to go for a little bit of a walk later. And I think what I've learned too is, it's funny because I'm talking about redefining fitness. And also, on the flip side, for those of you out there, is I don't want you to define yourself by your health and fitness either. It's about, if you're not moving yet, then start with moving for 5 minutes, and don't discount that. That would be like me saying, when I'm like learning a new skill, like I'm starting to learn Spanish again, I'm going to spend 5 minutes a day on it. What do you think is going to happen in a month after I practice 5 minutes a day? I'm going to make some progress. So you have to look at it in a way of, think about something that you're really good at, and think about if you were going to teach that to someone else and they were going to spend 5 minutes on it each day, how would you approach that? And then all of a sudden it like takes away some of that stress and that feeling of like, well, I don't know if this is for me, or I don't know if I can do this. And then you've reframed it to feel like, no, I can do this. I'm just unfamiliar. And we don't like being unfamiliar because it makes us uncomfortable, doesn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Man, that is powerful, Liz. I see myself a lot in that same situation. I found myself being in that same situation, where you're but I really like the power moments. I think we discredit what we can do, like you said, in 5 minutes. So we overwhelm ourselves. We're like, well, I can, because I remember there was a point in my life where it was a badge of honor. Like, I was in the gym 5 hours or 2 hours, but I love how you said it's really, but what you do, right? Whether it's a minute or a walk or doing what it takes, just adjusting with what comes. I think that's so an awesome statement right there in itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it also, like I said, I think it just makes it a little bit easier for people to digest, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do something new. And by the way, it's not always fun either. Like, I mean, we all like, I mean, I love working out, but then there's days where I'm like, I don't want to do this. And so I think you kind of also have to motivate yourself in different ways and also know that this is a long game, right? I think when I wake up every day now and I think about my health and like what I'm doing for my workouts, it's to make sure that my back stays good because I do have a hole back there, guys. And so it's always, I change the structure of my spine. So I think about every day, like, okay, what am I doing to help my back, to keep me strong, to keep me moving for the next 42 years. I think about my parents and like how they're kind of moving a little bit, and they're kind of slowing down. They're in their 70s. And by the way, you're going to pick up all the same patterns. So if you kind of want to know where you're going, look at them and see kind of like maybe where they're having some struggles, right? And say, hey, well, I can do this a little differently for me. And then I think also is just like, there's so many things that I still want to do in life and accomplish. And having a healthy body is going to like help me with that. So it's really not as much about, when I was in my 20s and my 30s, I wanted to look good in my Lulu, right? Like I wanted to wear the cute outfits. I wanted to be the perfect in shape personal trainer because of our uniforms. Like that's not really what motivates me anymore. And that's okay. Like I think at the end of the day, I think if you're doing something for you that makes you feel good and is going to help you with your health, there's really no wrong way. But I also encourage you, right? Like whether you're, we kind of talked about the beginners, but now I want to kind of maybe speak a little bit to those people that you've been working out for a couple of years, but it's like off and on, and you have a good month and then you have a bad month, and that's okay. That's going to happen. And sometimes you have to continue to remotivate yourself. I don't have kids, but I would imagine like if you do, sometimes you got to kind of like use different strategies to like get them to do things, right? Like I always use the silly example with clients where they're like, especially when we're talking about really simple things like drinking water. Is it really that important, Liz? I don't know. Is brushing your teeth important? Like sometimes we got to use a little bit of tough love. Sometimes we got to use a little bit. It depends on how we're kind of feeling that day, but be open to the fact that we all need health and wellness in our lives. And then it's just a matter of like how we're going to kind of like put it in there and make us feel like this is what we're doing for ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yes. That is so, I love that shift where you're doing it for yourself. And really, I think when, like you said, when you start doing it for yourself, you really start taking ownership of the process. And like you said, you're a little bit more motivated of it. So Liz, I noticed you began your health coaching as well. You found those new approaches to health that didn't long hours in the gym really works for you. How's that philosophy? What has shaped your current approach to wellness?
Yeah. So, do you mean like in terms of like for myself or more with clients or kind of both?
Oh yeah, just your overall program, because as you began coaching, you found those new ways to approach health that didn't involve those long hours in the gym or those extreme diets. Can you just share a little bit more about the shift in philosophy or how things have changed for you personally, or how you work with your clients?
Yeah. And I think part of it is, I think that we just shift our philosophy too, because like we get older and like things are different. So that's definitely part of
Yeah.
it, kind of like trial and error, like what we did when we were 20 just doesn't work anymore.
Yes.
Um, and so there's obviously a special place for me in my heart for those of us that are like, I'm in my 40s now, and I embrace that and I love that. And I think really where my philosophy started to change was not only like I think helping people with that kind of steps 1 through 7, like those people that they wanted to kind of start a workout, or maybe they were starting, but then they were like, am I really like getting anything done? And I think helping them realize that everything is a journey. And part of it is, yes, like as you're working with professionals, they're going to kind of help you streamline. But I think more importantly, teaching them that this whole journey of health, it needs to continue to evolve with you. And also, I think, especially because I primarily work with women, is helping them to see that prioritizing their health is so important. Actually, Sam and I were talking about this just a little bit right before we hopped on, and I did a webinar earlier with someone that is a nutrition expert, and we were thinking about like how like wellness and everything is particularly marketed to females, and how everything is like a one size fits all, and like you need to look a certain way and you need to follow this plan and you need to do these workouts. And then all of a sudden it makes you feel like, well, I need to do this. And then if you don't, like, I'm sorry, like I actually love watching CrossFit and everything, by the way, but I can't do that stuff anymore. I just can't. But that doesn't mean that someone else can't. I just know, hey, this is my plan over here.
Yeah.
And that's really what I like to bring to every coaching session is it's okay if you see all these other trends and stuff that you try that you don't resonate with. That's okay. And also knowing that that just means that it's not for you. Just like if you are an expert, everyone's an expert in something. If you're really truly an expert, that means that you're not going to resonate with everybody. There's going to be, I mean, hey, we all know like you've made it when like you got some haters on there, right? Some people that are just like, I just don't like their message. Well, that's okay. That means I am not for you. And so I really pride myself on saying like the people that I work with is like, hey, as we're talking about this redefining, a lot of it actually first and foremost comes about with prioritizing and saying that your health actually needs to be a priority, right? Like you making time to work out and cook meals and things like that.
Yeah.
That's not being selfish. That's saying I'm going to put myself first and I'm going to learn more and I'm going to listen to what my body is saying, right? If I'm having like weird cravings, or if I'm not sleeping, or if I'm getting really stressed by all these things, instead of saying, I just need to grin and bear it, because that's what the old Liz would do. Liz, you just need to run further. You just need to eat more protein today. You just need to do this. And it's like, no, you got to take a step back and you need to actually take that time to listen to like what your body is saying and embrace that and say like, okay, like, hey, you know what? I need to talk to Liz about this because something's going on and something's off. And this doesn't feel right. Or like, I don't like this workout, but I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. I think it's kind of getting to that point of let's talk about prioritizing and then we can start to strategize. But first and foremost, we got to make sure, are you on board with saying like, you need to put yourself first, right?
Yes. Man, it's so powerful. I mean, I think I love it starts with that prioritizing, like making that time for yourself. And I know, like you said, if you don't see yourself, or you like you said, if exercising is new, or if you've been working out for a long time, but you're like, it's been a while. Obviously, jobs come up, like you said, life changes. We get older, change, but just still making that time stuff. I think many times we feel like if we take care of ourselves, it might be selfish. But I love how you said it. It was like, it's I'm making myself a priority, out of caring for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you were talking. I love how you said something about many women struggle with, that pressures of just that one size fits all thing. Just I feel like that's how our health and fitness market always is going around. Is just that one size fits all program for everybody. how do you help people, or especially women who they're particularly marketing to, step away from that type of frustration that comes with just, with every single day doing?
Yeah. Yeah, because that's actually where a lot of times our coaching starts is like, so can we talk about intermittent fasting or can we talk about keto? And like, hey, you know what? I'm here to educate too, right? Like when we coach, and actually for those of you that are not more familiar with health coaching, it's really actually more about helping to guide the conversation, but you actually have to take your expert hat off, which by the way is hard to do. But it allows you are allowing time and space and opportunity for that client to actually hear themselves and to talk through things. So but back to your original question, like with women and kind of that one size fits all, it's we could go a lot of different directions with this conversation, couldn't we? I'll stay in my wheelhouse. But I think for women out there that feel like, this is like what they're seeing and marketed towards, is like, that doesn't mean that you have to listen to any of it though either. That doesn't mean that you have to follow that. I think if you're giving energy into that, then it's just going to continue to grow, right? But it's just like a plant, right? Like, I'm not using silly examples here, but if you don't water the plant, then the plant's going to die. So I think it's also that's why we're having conversations like this today, is if you are hearing too many negative things, that probably also means that you need to kind of maybe change some of that environment. Like, where are some of these messages coming from? And then change that message. And I think what is amazing for me is being 42 right now, and in an environment that I think that we're finally starting to change this, right? I was just, and it's funny too, with some of the people that I worked with, thinking back to, okay, well, like when I was a teenager, and like, where were we getting our information? And so we didn't have, like, we had the internet, but we didn't have the internet. So we would like look at magazines and stuff like that, and like what was cool. And that's when Kate Moss was cool and CK1. And even Kate's come out and said, hey, we need to change this. But a lot of it too, I think what I was grateful for the community that I had around me with my other running friends and stuff like that, that I didn't really get caught up in a lot of the diet culture, but I work with a lot of women that did. And it's saying, think back, did those storylines, did they serve you? And if they didn't, then it's also just time to let those go. And it's time to find new stories. It's time to find new mentors. It's time to follow new people on Instagram or on Facebook, or I'm on Substack. Like, you need to kind of change who's in front of you. And I think that that's really powerful, because otherwise you feel very isolated. You feel like, well, but that's what's out there. It's like, that's just one little corner of the internet that's saying that. Look, that might just be that you need to kind of shift your focus a little bit more, and shift it inward too, because even if you follow those diets, it doesn't really mean that, like, is it really going to resonate with you? Like, this is how you know when your health and wellness is working for you, is that even if, like, in the mirror you're like, not everything is exactly where you want it to be, but all of a sudden you're sleeping better and your energy is different, and people are saying like, wow, you seem different. What have you been doing? And you're like, oh, I've been eating breakfast on a regular basis. I haven't done that in like years. And I started to make time for it. And like, now my brain fog in the morning is gone. Like, and women, I get to say this because I am one. Like, sometimes we get in these things that, like, we don't even realize, like, our behavior of what we're doing. It's not that we're trying to self-sabotage. It's that we just don't actually know how to change the narrative. And it's like, we got to get out of that, because sometimes we're doing things that are just not serving us.
Wow. We were talking about really what you're surrounding yourself with, and how your surroundings of what you're in, like it's social media or anything like that. I love the fact that it's something that you have the power to change. And I think many times we might be following the wrong people, like you said, or just identifying with things that we no longer have to identify with, like by limiting or by someone else's opinions, or whether it be opinions or something. It's just being in charge of your surroundings. Powerful thing, like you said right there, that you can really have control of that. More health conscious could be that very well thing that help you feel more motivated because you see someone else doing it. That's so awesome, Liz. Thank you for that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
One of your key messages, Liz, you say one of your key messages say about it is saying yes to yourself. How does that principle play into creating a more balanced and sustainable wellness journey? Just saying yes to yourself.
Yeah. Ooh. And it's, and hey, everything that we talk about today too is, by the way, this is always like, it's a work in progress for me too. Like every day I wake up and we wake up every day with like doubts of like what we're doing and what we're working towards and all that. So as I kind of go into this, I want you guys to know that like, Sam wakes up with different things that he's like, I'm working on it, just like Liz is. So we don't have everything figured out, right? But
Yes.
I think when it comes to, right, like when it comes to saying yes to yourself, I think it's giving yourself just a little bit of that like empathy each day. We use some certain words in health coaching of like, we want you to thrive, we want to create some space. And another word that I really love that's, I feel like a little bit more of a buzzword these days is grace. Is just like giving yourself like that grace of saying, you know what? This is what I'm feeling today. Like I need to do this for me, right? You know, whether it's, hey, I need to spend a little bit more time just kind of meditating today, or you know what, I'm going to do some journaling today. Like sometimes there's so many different ways when we talk about like self-love or prioritizing yourself. It doesn't have to be this big thing. Like I'm going to meal prep for the next 7 days today. And I think people start so big. And that's just too much. So, you know, start with, I always say a great place to start is start with, you know, writing some daily gratitudes. And people, again, people are going to like, really? Like that's your big takeaway, like gratitudes? Yeah. Yeah, gratitudes, because you know what? It starts with a couple of gratitudes and then all of a sudden you're like, man, I'm like living a pretty good life here. You know, sometimes I forget that. And then from there, you know, also is looking to see like, you know, if you want to be making changes, right? Whether it's weight loss or stress relief, why? Ask yourself why. And not because you need to validate it, but more because you are interested in like what your inner voice is saying to you. We all have an inner voice, and how it talks to us is something that I work on every day. I meditate for 30 minutes a day, not because it's always fun, by the way, but because I need to change a little bit of that inner voice and what it's saying, right? And so listen and say like, you know, what is it that Liz needs today to like move forward? You know, if let's say we have a big goal of like, we want to be able to do a 5K by the end of the year, something like that. All those things. I was actually just talking about this in a webinar I did last month. What are all of the steps that I'm probably going to need to do? I'm not going to know all of them right now, but then what's the one thing that I can do right now? And I think it's just opening up the conversation of really asking yourself, I'm an older millennial. I have grown up saying, I'm going to go to high school, and then I'm going to go to college, and then I'm going to get a job, and then hopefully I'm going to meet somebody. I'm going to get married. I'm going to buy a house. Maybe I'm going to get a dog or two. Like it's all of this. And I never actually asked myself any questions of like, what is it actually that Liz wants? I would say until I was in my 30s. I never really asked myself that. And then all of a sudden, like shit started hitting the fan where my back was hurting all the time and like, you know, stuff was happening and I was like moving across the country. And you need to have those conversations with yourself. You need to ask yourself, like, what is it that I really want? And I feel like that's a great place to start with prioritizing yourself. You know, I know I tend to give really long answers. So hopefully you got a little something out of that one.
No, that was great, Liz. That was great. I think that's such a powerful thing of like what you said right there, just making yourself a priority. But I really love that question about asking what you truly want, because there's so many times I feel like if you don't know what you want, somebody else will tell you, right? So easy to be like, well, they're doing that, so I have this, or what's the expect for you to have at this age, or I love that question, reflection of really just where what do I want? I gotta say, I'm a little jealous. 30 minutes of meditation is amazing.
Thank you. Work in progress. There's
I'm
days where
just
it's
trying to
like
get
awesome.
5 right now, Liz.
Yeah, there's days where it's like amazing, and there's days where I'm like, oh, but I always say it's 30 minutes of priority every single morning, and I make the time, whether it doesn't matter when I have to get up, and it helps me just like know, like, okay, it doesn't matter what else I did to do today, I got that done, right? Like I did some self-care right from the start. Whatever else happens today, it's still a win.
Yes. But I really love how you talked about that process simply be a simple thing like gratitude. And I know with my journey when it came down and really you're still here. I mean, you've overcame a pandemic. You have the world has been flipped upside down, and you're still here. And that's in itself to be grateful for, and continue that process, realizing something like you said in the very beginning. Nobody really has it all figured out, regardless of where they're at that point. But they're still here, learning through the process.
Yeah.
All right, man, Liz, you have so I love you. You mentioned that many women have those feelings of wanting to reach their full potential when it comes to their health. How do you guide people who are that they maybe have that limited mindset of overcoming, or just trying to find peace on that journey, live optimally? You've never had fitness as something in your wheelhouse before. What's that mindset to help them find peace through that process?
Yeah. I think it's really it's tapping into like where their inner strength lies. Um so it's kind of coming back to some of the things that we talked about. Again, it's getting rid of those like narratives of like, well, this is what success looks like.
Yeah.
Well, why does success have to look like that, right? So I think one is, let's get rid of the narratives. And then let's really talk to that person and say, like, let's talk about some things. Let's talk about some tough stuff. Let's talk about things that you overcame in your journey so far, right? Like, I know the things that have helped to define my journey, but everybody has those things, those experiences that have happened to them. And then tapping in from there and saying, so when you got that big goal done, or where you overcame that obstacle, how are you prioritizing yourself then? Because I bet you weren't doing it all just on like fumes, right? And so I think sometimes it helps specifically for women to remember, you are amazing. You're amazing. Like, you're on this earth, like you're here to like you can like bear children. This is like amazing stuff, right? Like, we're strong. So I think it's sometimes is just reminding them that like you have an inner strength in you, and maybe you just need to be reminded of that. And now you're going to take that inner strength and you're going to start another new journey. And that journey is going to be about prioritizing. And I think, we don't want to go in like 7 different directions, but one is maybe changing some of what you're viewing and like experiencing, who you're surrounding yourself with. And those people that are in your orbit, right? Your support system, make sure that they understand that, because I think what we do first is that we have our long list of things, and then like, oh, I got to do this and this and this today. And then like there's the workout thing, and that's the first thing that gets crossed off. And why is that? Why do we cross that off? Because we don't think it's important. So really, I feel like it's my responsibility is to help that person, think back to a time when they really were maybe the best version of themselves, or they overcame something that was really, really difficult. And then saying, I want you to think about that fire. And now we're going to apply that to your health and wellness. Now let's start to look at like maybe where can we start to fit things in. And I'll tell a quick story about like one of my clients that I worked with for about 6 months, mostly on like nutrition, but as well as some healthy habits and things. And I think what she really was so powerful was that she wanted to be a better role model to her kids. And she realized that if she's not prioritizing her health, then like, what is she teaching them? Right. And, it really hit home when she was saying how her daughter was like, oh, we never celebrated my volleyball game like last week. We need to go get ice cream. And she's like, why do we have to celebrate it that way? Maybe we could just celebrate it by like talking about the game and stuff. And what she's doing is that she's creating a new framework for her and her family of like, like what, like how do we celebrate success? Do we always celebrate it with like ice cream and cake? And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you got a volleyball game every single week, and also for herself, she also realized that like her kids are teenagers. She's actually having them start to take over like a little bit of the cooking during the week and stuff like that. So she's not handling everything. Sometimes I'm just somebody with a husband. Like I don't have kids and stuff, but even sometimes I still struggle with like, well, do I need to do all that stuff just for me today? Because immediately it's like we immediately go to this place of saying, well, I need to just kind of do everyone else's stuff first. Guess what? There's always going to be other stuff to do. There's always going to be more. So you taking the time to prioritize you is actually going to be an ongoing process. It's going to take a while and it's going to be uncomfortable, and that's okay. But I think, like keeping in the forefront of like, why is this goal important to you and where are you going to find the strength for it? And the last thing that I'll say, I'm reminded I'm in the middle of Alexi Pappas's audiobook called Bravey. And she reminds me that, like sometimes willpower is really difficult to overcome. And always remember that your mind is always good. Like when you don't want to get up in the morning and like get up early to like work out, your mind is going to say that you want to stay in bed. But if you just get up, you know what I mean? I know that sounds like so silly, but sometimes don't make it harder for yourself with your willpower on the days that are more difficult. Ignore your brain and then just start going. Sometimes we have to kind of like move away from like the negativity, you know what I mean? So I know I went tangents there, but I always like to cover all my bases.
No, yes, that's awesome. I love that. I think that's so powerful. Like giving yourself that power to really be successful, but leave the excuses by taking action in itself. I just want to touch. I know you do a lot of stuff. You have so much experience. You've created not only an amazing space for women in itself, but I wanted to talk about just about the importance of the flexibility in those fitness plans. I know you kind of talked about, obviously life changes. But with health coaching, how important is it for wellness plans to have flexibility? I'd love to just kind of cover that. I know that's something you.
Yeah. So important. So important because everyone's on a different journey. Everyone is on a different journey and everyone has different needs. So when we talk about like personalization when it comes to health and wellness, I just kind of want to paint a couple of scenarios, right? Whether it's like the person walking in that, maybe they're like myself, they're a former athlete, then all of a sudden, work got crazy, kids got busy, and now they're like 35 and they're like, oh my God, I have no idea where to start with my workouts. Okay. And a lot of them have like a framework. So then it's just a matter of me saying, hey, what's most important to start with? Do you want to start with the workouts? Do you want to start with nutrition? Like what is most important for you? Right. And then we're going to start there in terms of like the implementation, because really like, I'm going to like give away the world here. I'm going to have so many trainers that watch this that are going to get so mad, and I don't care. When it comes to like the basics of like what we need to do for cardio and what we need to do for strength training, it's actually very, very simple. And I say that like seriously, I think so much of what we get all wrapped up in I actually just wrote a Substack about this, about like nutrition, of like, we get all like, we need to do all this stuff. No, you don't. Let's talk about what's important for you right now. Like, is it that person that we were just saying is probably just of starting something in the right space, meaning, hey, we're probably going to need a little bit more. I'm going to put my expert hat on. Probably going to need a little bit more core and mobility. Not getting right into that strength training yet because you're kind of starting out, and like your cardio might be walks instead of runs, right? Or the person that comes to me that says, I want to lose weight, but I found out I have an autoimmune, like disorder now. And now I'm like freaking out about nutrition. Okay, let's take a look at that. As a health coach, we have a little bit more kind of skill sets of like, let's take a look at the blood work, and let's take a look at what you're doing right now. Okay, Cindy, like, tell me, is it breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Where do you want to start that change? Okay, cool. We're going to start with breakfast. Based on what we're seeing with this, put the expert hat on. I want you to start kind of doing these things, right? And so really, what's really cool about it is that the personalization is twofold. One, the goals are going to always resonate. They're going to start with the person. I'm just there to help guide the conversation. And then I put on the expert hat to make sure that now we're going to get into the like work smarter, not harder. Because at the end of the day, right? If somebody came up to me on the street, hey, you got to get in 150 minutes of cardio each week. You got to strength train 2 to 3 times a week on all your major muscle parts. That's strength training 101, right? That doesn't mean that there's like we could go into like hours of how to do that. But I think people, they complicate things, and they're nervous too, because, hey, I mean, you could start talking about a conversation with me that I don't know anything about, and I'm going to get real like, oh, you're overwhelming me real quick. And so my job, I feel like, is what's great. I get to put on these different hats. So the personalization comes from first is like, let's really take a step back. Let's build your vision. Let's build your values. Let's tell me where you want to go and why. And then we can start talking about all of like the strategies to get there. But if we don't really build a framework, then we're never really going to know like where we're going and why. Because then if you are really not doing things that are true to who you are and your values, that's really, I think, when like goals and everything start to fizzle out, is because it doesn't actually resonate with you, and it's actually not important because you're chasing something else,
That I agree. I love you said it can be simple, and I think if you watch workouts on Instagram, it has to be like backflips and stuff. And I think, like you said, it just comes back to getting to the basics, but it really starts out with starting where you're at. I think that's the benefit, like what Liz is talking about, just having that personal coach that's going to guide you through instead of removing that guesswork and getting you the results that you want.
Mm-hmm.
It really starts with knowing where you want to start at, and then having a coach that's going to get you there. So Liz, for someone today ready to start making changes in their health and wellness, how could they get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you'd like to get in touch with me, I made it super simple. My website is lizrodriguezcoaching.com, and you can actually contact me through there in case you want to set up a call, whether it's to, talk about your health and wellness goals, or you just have some questions, like you got questions about intermittent fasting or something like that. I'm always happy to answer questions, and also just spread the love of knowledge. I think that's really important. As well as, you can find me on, I kept everything the same. My Facebook, is also just, my Facebook is also Liz Rodriguez Coaching. And then my Substack is also under my Liz Rodriguez. And actually the name of it is Redefining Health and Wellness for Women. So whether you want to do a little bit of reading, set up a call, or you just want to like say hi on Facebook, that's where you're going to find me.
Awesome. Yes, you definitely brought a wealth of knowledge today. So many great nuggets, you guys. I listen to this over again because I'm like, man, things that you taught us here today. But really, I love something you said there. It's just really starting off with knowing where you want to go. I think that's the most powerful thing, is knowing where you want to go and asking for help to get you there. And Liz is there to do that exact thing. So thank you so much, Liz, today for sharing your knowledge. You were amazing. So you guys, make sure you go follow Liz on all her socials. I mean, she kept it, like she said, simple for us. Liz Rodriguez, I think she had Facebook and Instagram, and it was Redefining Strength. But if you guys, you got to check out our website. It is amazing. It's a beautiful website, by the way, as well. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. This was so amazing, Sam.
Thank you, Liz. All right, you guys, y'all take care. Follow Liz.